Great.
So
So,
welcome everyone.
happy Monday, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to our show. In fact, today we are going to continue with the conversation that we had in our last show where we talked about protein. There was so many things, so many questions that came in that we couldn't cover and respond to all those questions. So today we want to take some time to go through that again and really just, it's not a repeat of the last show, but really to cover more things that we did not cover in the last show. So thank you for being here. I invite you to do two things. Number one is comment below. Number one, where are you streaming in from? And number two, here's the question for today. Okay? What is the number one physical trait that you like about yourself the most? What is one thing you like the most about yourself? Physical trait. So that means
So have
maybe
to be
it's
physical,
your physical trait. Because then people will say, oh, I like myself because I'm honest. Like, I don't want that. We want like a physical trait. So that means like maybe you like your hair. My hair's wavy and beautiful. So let's take a look at ourselves and let's see what is one physical trait that you like about yourself. Comment below. And we're going to get the conversation going. So if you're watching this today, thank you for being here. Today, we're going to talk about protein, everything about protein. Any questions, keep them coming. So what you can do is you can click on that little question mark icon that you see somewhere here. Tap on that icon, and then you can ask the question, and we will get to your question. Anything protein related or anything fitness related, we want to talk about that today. Alvin, tell us, where are you streaming in from, and what is your favorite number one physical trait about yourself?
All right, I'm tuning in from Kajang, and the physical trait I guess I love about myself are my eyes. My eyes are powerful enough that I don't need to wear glasses at the moment.
Wow, you wait. Okay. Yeah, okay. I can't say the same,
do
but
you wear
okay,
glasses
your
or
favorite
not, first
physical
of all?
trait is what's that?
Do you wear glasses?
Yeah, I do. So it's just that most of the time, so I'm wearing my contact lens. So I
Alright.
can't say that my physical trait is my eyes, but quite close. My favorite physical trait about myself are my eyelashes.
Oh.
And it's just based on what other people say. Okay, I think it's no big deal, but other people say that, hey, everyone comes and tells me, I like your lashes. I go, okay. So then I realize that, okay, it's kind of long. So so I've like, yeah, so I've adopted it based on what people said. And there you go. That's my answer. So to those of you tuning in, time to look at yourself and comment below what is your number one physical trait that you like the most and where are you tuning in from. We'd love to get to know you. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about and go deeper about the topic of protein. Protein, very, very not controversial, but very often discussed when anyone wants to join the gym or anyone wants to lose weight or anyone wants to eat healthier. You can't ignore the fact that protein comes up. Then there's plant-based protein. So even if you're vegetarian and you're wondering, like, vegetarian, do I still have to eat protein? We all need to consume protein. You just can't change it. Your body needs it, whether you like it or not. You don't have a choice, but there's different ways to get your protein intake, and we can talk about that today. And another thing also, Alvin, I think, you know why protein is a hot topic? Because I think protein has a bad reputation. I think for along the way, it has gotten a bad reputation. It's not a bad macronutrient, it's not, but it's a bad reputation, misunderstood,
Right.
Just like carbohydrates, it's like also has a bad reputation. People are like, oh, I want to eat healthy, I don't want to eat carbs. Nothing wrong with carbs, your body needs it, right? So protein also along the way has gotten a bad reputation. People feel that I can't overeat protein, don't eat too much, your kidneys will fail. There's all these things, right? There's all this fear of protein. So we can talk about that today and go a little deeper. So, and then hopefully our goal is that by the end of this show, or if after asking your questions, you no longer fear protein. In fact, you're going to make sure after today, our goal is that you make sure that tomorrow onwards, you get enough protein in your diet to help you succeed with your fitness goals, whatever that may be. Awesome. Penny,
That's right.
you want to help answer the question below? We're curious to know. Hi, Kylie. Thank you for being here. Let's see who else is here. We've got 10 people streaming in. We have Penny, we have my mom, we have Vivian Chu. Hi, Vivian. Thanks for being here. We have JY Life Fighter also. Awesome. Thanks for being here. The rest of them I can't see. Maybe Alvin will be able to see them. But Alvin, what else do we have in store for everyone in today's Monday night show?
So that's a great intro. We are going to make the best of your 1 hour with us. So it's a Q&A. Post your question below. If you see a little question mark box on the right bottom side of your Instagram, post your questions. We're going to answer as many as we can. As this is a part 2 of protein, we talk about protein, which is an essential macronutrient that you need to eat in your diet, because every cell in your body needs protein. Whether your goal is fat loss, building muscles, or whether is it just maintaining, you need protein. So we'll look at the daily recommendation is 0.8 to 1 gram per kilos. So if you're 50 kilos, you should be having about 50 grams of protein daily. Now, if you're into strength training, if your goal is building muscles, you're lifting a lot of weight, your protein intake, this is according to ACSM, American Council of Sport Medicine, they said, hey, you need more protein, which is 1.2 to 1.7 gram of your body weight in kilos. And I'm sharing all these facts because a lot of people is going to say, hey, how much protein should I consume? Here are the numbers, multiply with your own body weight. And if you're an endurance runner, if you are running a marathon, you're a swimmer, you're a badminton player, if you're doing a lot of endurance sports, your requirement is 1.2 to 1.4. So this is how much protein that you should be consuming. And Noel and I share a little bit more in depth about protein requirement in our previous episode. So we invite you to watch back our previous episode that can give you a whole basic understanding in terms of quantity. And today we'd like to focus a little bit about different variety, more in depth about soy protein, plant-based protein. So please ask any questions, post them below, and we're going to straight away bring them out, or I'm going to pin them out as I see as it fits into our conversations. Now, I got a question for you, Noel. What is the last protein you had today? Like I had salmon for lunch. How about you?
I had pork.
Ooh. Was this for lunch or dinner?
This is lunch. I actually haven't had dinner yet. Pork. I have a Chinese caterer, so today's lunch was pork. Not the best source of protein. It's still protein, but that was my last source of protein for today. It was a late lunch. That's for me. And yours is salmon. Alvin, did you cook the salmon yourself?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Awesome. I'm also looking, Alvin, so since you're both doing the Instagram live together, I can actually see the questions
fantastic.
that people have asked. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. Like people are talking about kidney problems, how much whey protein, the difference between pea and soy, and which is exciting. So keep those questions coming, everybody. How you do that is you click on that, you tap on that little question mark icon that you see below, and ask us anything that you want to know or you're curious about or want to discuss about when it comes to protein. Now, Alvin and I do not promise to know everything. We don't. If we did know everything, we wouldn't be here. We'll be, I don't know, sitting on some castle somewhere and ruling the world. But we don't know everything. We are also just learning like you. So we're going to help answer those questions if we know the answer. If you don't know the answer, we're going to give you some pointers or at least point you in the right direction. And speaking about protein, Alvin, there's now that the price of food is going up. You go to the market, everything's going up. To be honest, I haven't bought any groceries lately because I have a caterer who's been catering food, and you are catering. You must be buying things because you're cooking your own stuff, right?
Yes, of course.
Have you noticed a price increase in, I know people are
Mm-hmm.
saying that chicken price is going up, there's chicken shortage, there's all these kinds of things. What have you noticed in terms of protein? Is it becoming more expensive here in Malaysia?
Yes, it is like per kilo. So we goes by per kilo, whether it's in hypermarket or Jaya Grocer. It is slightly more expensive for the portion size. And I noticed like if you go out and eat, the price may remain. However, the protein quantity like they serve you can a bit lesser right now. Yeah.
Because the restaurants don't want to increase the price, then people get
Mm-hmm.
upset, and I
That's
understand
right.
that. So what happens is they reduce the protein portion. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's significant because if you ask me, already most places don't give you enough protein. It's that one thing you want to
Correct.
add more when you eat. So all the more it's important now. If you're always eating out, then you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Awesome. So the price of
Yeah.
salmon has also gone up. Everything's just going up, right? Generally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
So that means
that's a great
KFC. I don't
question.
think KFC raised their prices. So that means if I go to KFC, I think the chicken's going to be smaller, right? Actually, the KFC chicken has shrunk a long time ago. It's just drumstick
One
no
thing
longer
for
like
sure,
that.
whether is it KFC or any fast food chain, they have supply that can last for years. So even if you've got chicken shortage right now, KFC is going to
Right.
have stock for the next 10 years. That's the crazy
Right.
thing about fast food industry.
I think they have their own farms here in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to rely on outside suppliers. If I correct me if I'm wrong, but that's it. You're right. Okay, awesome. So Alvin, what do we have next? What's the next step in our show? You want to go to the questions right away, or meanwhile, everyone watching this, just comment below. We are still taking questions. There's a whole bunch of questions coming in, but we'd love to know more about what you want to know. So where shall we go next, Alvin?
So we are going to do questions straight away because I feel that the points that we are going to share is also going to connect to the questions that we have. So I'm going to pin out
Great.
the first question. So the first question asks is the difference in pea protein and soy protein, which if you are a vegan, I'm not sure what the DF is. Noel, do you understand what's DF? What is best for you?
Hang on, I think you need to unpin the thing. I don't see the question that you're displaying actually. You see it? Is it displaying on your?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh really? Okay, so maybe I'm the one who can't see it because I'm doing the thing with you. Okay, great. So what's the question again, Alvin? Could you repeat it, please? Sorry.
Sure. The difference between protein, between soy and pea protein. And if you're a vegan, what is best for you? Perhaps maybe I can share first that both are amazing source of plant-based protein. So if you are a vegan, definitely you won't be able to go for milk-based, or beef protein. So these are excellent choices. The key thing in choosing a protein supplement, whether is it your whey protein, animal-based or plant-based, is to always look at the nutrition label, particularly the ingredients. So one thing you want to look for, like if you're choosing a whey protein, you want to make sure that the first few ingredients consist of whey, like 100% whey. Same thing with soy protein. You want to make sure that it's soy, because in terms of ingredient label, the manufacturer or the one that makes your supplements will need to arrange the most ingredient quantity first, followed by the list. So if you see like your supplements have like some proprietary blend, is where they mix different sorts of cheaper protein or materials or ingredients into it, and therefore have lesser protein quantity. So you want to be aware of the ingredient list, and then from there on, you can then better decide which brand is it and which soy protein is it.
Yeah, true. And there's so many brands, so many choices out there. If you ask me, what's the difference between pea protein and soy protein? Well, one comes from peas, one comes from soy. So two different plant-based sources. DF is, I believe, is dairy-free, Alvin. I think that would probably be it.
Okay.
So the question asked that if you're dairy-free or vegan, what's the best for you? I think everybody has their preferences. So if you're dairy-free, obviously you can't be having whey protein or casein because it's from dairy. And I believe that in the end, if you don't want to rely just on one protein source. So you don't want to be consuming and supplementing with soy protein for the past 20 years. you want to have some variety. You want to eat
Mm-hmm.
your protein source. You don't want to just rely on supplements, and you want to vary them. So if you're like now, the good thing is now there's so many options when it comes to plant-based protein sources. There's rice protein, there's pea protein, there's soy, which is very common. What else is there? There's hemp protein.
Is that
There
oat protein?
is, what's that?
Oat protein.
There is. So basically any plant-based, well, there's no
Mm.
broccoli protein, but basically any most plant-based. I've seen soy, I've seen pea, I've seen rice protein, I've seen hemp, I've seen a few other plant-based sources where they've isolated the protein. So what I'm trying to say is that you can, among the plant-based proteins, you should vary it. That would be the best for you. So the best protein is not just a particular one. I would group all the plant-based proteins into one category, but I would suggest just varying it. So you may have a variety. So you have, if you're going to buy powders and supplement it, buy a few different ones so that you can rotate. Morning different, lunch different, or this week I'm going to have the soy protein. Next week I'm going to have the rice protein. Next week I'm going to have the hemp protein. You want to just keep the variety going, because if you think about it in real life, if we eat our food, it's not that you're eating soybeans every day, right? There's always variety. So
Right.
I would say you want to vary it, and that would be the best option for you. Very good question. Keep those questions coming, everybody. You want to click on that little question mark icon that you see below on Instagram and ask us your question, and we can get to it and display it and address it tonight. And we can talk more about it. Great. Awesome. Next
Lovely.
question, Alvin. What do you have? It's a whole bunch of questions. Awesome.
Yeah, so shout out to those who just enter our room. We are doing a live Q&A on our episode 66, and our topic for today is protein. So if you have any questions about protein, or perhaps any other fitness related questions, comment below and we are here to answer you. So I'm going to post one over here. And this question asks, do excess protein get converted to carbs and cause weight gain? So you eat extra protein and perhaps you don't move. Will it convert to carb and cause weight gain? Noel, do you want to take this first?
Yeah, great question. Excess. So let me paraphrase the question also. Basically, what you're asking is, if I eat too much protein, more than what my body requires, am I going to gain weight? Am I going to gain fat? The answer is yes. In fact, it's not just protein, it's excess anything. Excess fat or excess carbohydrates or excess protein, it's going to cause you to be in a caloric surplus. Therefore, you're going to store the excess energy in the form of body fat. So there's nothing, it doesn't mean that you eat fat only. I think the confusion is that if I eat a lot of fat, I'm going to gain fat. But if I eat protein, doesn't matter how much I eat, I'm not going to gain fat. No, and that's wrong. Because at the end of the day, it's all about energy balance. Too much calories, less energy expenditure, you will gain weight regardless of what it is. But the good thing is about protein is, if you're consuming protein, it tends to keep you full. Eating your fish, your chicken, your cheese, and all those protein sources, chances of you overeating is less compared to if you're just eating lots of carbohydrates and lots of oily, fatty foods. It's easier to overeat. If you are eating a lot of lean proteins, it's harder to overeat. But coming back to your question, you're basically asking, too much protein, does it convert to fat? Yes. Too much anything is going to convert to fat.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think, Noel, you put it perfectly, and I'm going to leave it at that. Too much of anything leads to extra calories, which leads you to weight gain. And one more thing, before I go to the next question, when you said about, protein eating extra is beneficial, it's really true. Another thing about protein is that protein, among the macronutrients, so you have your protein, your carbs, and your fat, protein has higher thermogenic effect. Thermogenic effect, which means is that if you consume protein, your body is going to use more energy to break down and absorb protein in the digestion process. So what that means is if you eat chicken, which is a protein source, and rice, which is a carb source, your body is going to use more calories to digest protein. So that's one of the benefits of protein also. So in terms of calories in the end of the day, as your body absorbs all the nutrients, protein actually burns slightly more calories. That's why you see some articles saying that eating protein boosts metabolism. Eating protein will help you, like Noel said, keeps you full longer. It's because of this, the thermogenic effect of digesting protein.
Yeah.
All right,
And
Noel,
protein is good too.
Right. Anything cooked good tastes good, Noel.
Okay, that's true. If you boil your chicken breast, then it's going to be blah. Yeah. Correct.
Okay, Noel, I'm
point.
going to pass this to you because you mentioned this. Can too much protein leads to kidney problem? So if someone eating a lot of protein, can it cause kidney problems?
Yeah, here comes the fear part of it. And at the end of the day, can I start answering this question? So the question is, if I eat too much protein, am I going to harm my kidneys, right? Well, firstly, too much of anything is never a good thing, right? But how much is too much? Now, based on my experience working with so many clients, whether they want to lose weight, they want to build muscle, can I tell you that most of us think we're eating too much, but actually it's not enough. If you base it on the ACSM requirements for protein intake that Alvin mentioned just now, so ACSM suggests 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kg of body weight for strength training, or 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kg for endurance athlete. If you're 80 kgs, you multiply that by 1.2 or by 1.7, that's like hitting 130, 140, 150 grams of protein per day. Can I assure you that most of us will not hit that amount unless you are intentionally eating protein every meal, making sure your portions are there. To the average person on the street, trust me, we are nowhere close. So the concern now is that, okay, I joined the gym, I'm having a shake. I think people get freaked out because I'm having a shake. I'm supplementing with protein. Even then, 1 scoop of protein powder is usually between 20 to 30 grams, right? So coming back to the question again, can too much protein lead to kidney problems? So firstly, like I said, how much is too much? Because most people don't even consume enough. Number two is, yes, if you do exceed a ridiculous amount, maybe you're consuming like 5 grams per kg of body weight, which you're going to have a whole bunch of other issues, by the way. You'll be so stuffed you can't even eat anything else. Then yes, because it's too taxing to the kidneys. But even then, there's a lot of research that has been done where they push people beyond their limits. 2 grams per protein per pound of body weight, 3 grams. And they find that actually people are totally fine. The issue arises, and also a lot of times we hear these stories, is because people who consume an excessive amount of protein, who already have an underlying kidney condition, that means you're not having healthy kidneys in the first place, then yes, then you're someone who wants to look out, because if you already have some kidney problems, then maybe it's when you overconsume your protein, it's going to be a problem because your kidney is already struggling, whatever that issue is. But if you are a healthy adult with no kidney problems, you can easily go or even exceed the recommended guidelines, not every single day, but exceed the guidelines. And trust me, protein is the least of your concern. I'll be more worried about the saturated fat that we're consuming, or the sugar that we're consuming, or the salt and sodium in the fast food that we're consuming. It's funny how we don't think about all those things, but we focus on poor little protein, such a good macronutrient, so useful to us. But we try to find fault. What can this protein do? Hello, don't find fault with the protein. All the other macronutrients which we don't, right? I mean, nobody comes and asks you, like, what happens if I consume too many carbs? Am I going to damage my... Nobody asks that. Right. But when it comes to protein, everyone's afraid. Then am I going to hurt my kidneys? Like, no, there's other macronutrients which bring other issues with it. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did. You did very, very well.
Yeah. Anything to add on that, Alvin, or did I cover it?
Yeah, I think you did really well. I think I'd just like to add like the idea why people have this question in the first place is we associate like protein powders with bodybuilders, people with big muscles. And Noel highlights something that it's very true is that's what we see in front. A lot of this issue happens when the person already have underlying issues, or if a bodybuilder, let me be more specific, a professional bodybuilder who is competing, who is perhaps also on a lot of drugs or steroids at the back, that down the road, that's the main leading cause. But when we think of bodybuilders, we see the magazines, we see a protein, we kind of put these three in together, and therefore we know like, oh, the person dies because of protein and he's a bodybuilder. Protein leads to kidney failures, protein causes that, so we make that association. But what Noel says is very true. There are tons of research that says that when a person, general population, consume 2 to 3 grams of protein per kilo, perfectly fine. Okay, I'm going to share that link to all these research so that you can have in-depth understanding of protein requirements, how high can you go, all in our show notes later. It will be on our website and it will be on our Facebook. Okay, so don't be afraid, eat your protein. I've yet to meet a client that eat too much protein, needless to say, and then have kidney failures now. Yet to
doesn't happen. Alvin, remind us again. I know we talked about this in the last show, but what's your favorite protein that you like to eat?
It changes from season to season. At the moment, it's salmon. Yeah, but if you ask me last month, I would say it's beef.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. You're very right in the sense that it changes. For me, I think generally it used to be any kind of fish. White fish would be my favorite protein. I'm bored of chicken, by the way. I'll eat it, but I think
Right.
chicken is just too out there, and everyone's eating chicken all the time, right? So now they say government said stop eating chicken, right? Great, no problem. I'll stop eating chicken. I'll eat something else. But right now, I think I'm leaning towards beef, more beef, exploring how tasty beef can be. But also, let me ask you another question, Alvin. This is just all unplanned, right? What if you had to go plant-based and vegan for a month? What kind of protein sources would you rely on? What would you do? How would you take care of your protein intake?
I would then have more plant-based protein. I'll perhaps go like tofu, tempeh. I love tempeh. So I'll probably eat more of those and then play around with the way like I cook tempeh. I just saw a recipe. In fact, I had tempeh a few days ago. You can kind of like air fry or bake the tempeh so it becomes really crispy. Now, I know tempeh, when people think of tempeh, the Malay style, the restaurant, is like they deep fry it so it becomes really crispy and they mix it to sambal. So it can be a little bit oily and super high on calories. So that's the unhealthy version. But if you YouTube healthy recipe tempeh, you get a lot of creative ideas how they marinate the tempeh and just bake it, and then you get a crispy tempeh. So tempeh, Noel, tempeh would be my choice of plant-based protein.
Great. Yeah, same here. No, tempeh all the way. I love how some of the healthy food providers now, they also provide tempeh in various forms and not deep fried. So that's a great option. Tempeh is from fermented soybeans, right?
You're right.
They do something. It's very fascinating how that happens. But yeah, so okay. So great. So if we both became vegan for a month, we just go eat as much tempeh as we can. There's no tempeh shortage for now, from what I know. But okay, awesome. My friends, keep the questions coming. Comment below anything you want to ask us about protein, about training, fitness, motivation. We can talk about it as well. We do have a bunch of questions already, which Alvin and I will get to today. But thank you for being here on a Monday night. Keep those comments and questions coming in. What's the next
Love
question,
it. So
Alvin?
our next question is, how often should we consume whey protein if unable to get protein from natural sources? So I'm going to share a little bit about this. So I'm going to rephrase it into, if I can't eat enough, how often should I drink protein shake? Okay, and my answer is as much as you can to make sure that you hit your daily protein requirement. Okay, because as long as you have your daily protein requirements, other aspect kind of falls in place. It keeps you full. You have enough protein in your system to help you with the repairing, helping you with recovery. So as much as it needs to hit your daily requirement. Now that's my first part. My second part would be is I will also advise you, or if this is my clients, to immediately also pay attention to your main diet, because your main diet should definitely contain protein from food first. So you want to address that issue, like why are you not getting enough protein from food first? Unless you already, your protein requirement is high and you already eating your food, and then those are addition, that's fine, because supplements are meant to supplement your main diet. So if you are not having enough protein in your 3 meals, for example, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you need to really look into that and make sure you hit 3 meals with solid protein. Yeah, then additional whey protein, that's fine. Yeah, so that's my take on that, Noel.
Yeah, I would just add on to that to say that you said the magic sentence just now, Alvin. Supplements are meant to supplement your diet. That means if you're not getting enough from your diet, ask yourself why, and then fix that obstacle, fix that problem. But also, if you look at it, at the end of the day, what is a whey supplement powder? What is whey protein powder or pea protein? It's food in a different form. It's not synthetically made in the lab. It's actually derived from food. Whey protein is a byproduct of dairy, processing dairy into cheese. Whey is a byproduct from that. So it's also food. So I think sometimes the fact that this question was asked tells me that you see it in 2 different ways. You see it as food and something that's not very much like food, which is also correct, because one is a supplement, one is food. But if you look at the bigger picture, both are food. And if you look at the fact that, okay, so that means protein powder is food and real chicken and milk is also food, then you realize that it actually doesn't matter so much because it's food. It's not artificial, it's real food in a different form, in a more convenient form. So that's why I have clients who have no time to cook, can't be bothered to eat enough chicken and steak and fish throughout the day to meet their protein intake. So what's their option? Protein powder. Because it's so easy. You can't say no to taking 1 minute, 1 scoop of powder, mix with water, shake it, drink it, done. Compared to taking 15 minutes to eat a whole chicken breast, right? So it's at the end of the day boils down to convenience. So coming back to your question, like I said, Alvin answered the whole thing, but just remember that your question is unable to get from natural sources. So I want you to know that whey protein is also natural. It's not fake. It's not synthetic. They are both natural. But if you're always only eating whey protein and not eating real food, then you have a different problem. Go back and see why aren't you eating enough real food and relying too much on supplements. Yeah.
Correct.
Great question.
Great question. Yeah, so for those of you who are also watching this, we are talking about protein Q&A, so keep your question coming. And I just want to highlight something that coming from the previous questions and something that you mentioned just now, Noel, rotating your protein variety. So if you are consuming your protein mainly from one source, it's time to change, because each source will give you different nutrients. Okay, so if you're having chicken, you're going to have different sets of vitamins and minerals. Same thing with if you're having like seafood, protein coming from seafood, you're going to have different sets of like vitamins, minerals, extra omega-3, omega-6. So when you rotate your protein, you kind of fuel your body with different micronutrients, which is really important, whether your goal is fat loss, building muscles, maintaining optimum health. Sometimes when we go and do our blood test, the doctor will say, hey, you have something that is deficient. Yeah, that's because sometimes in our diet, we eat the same thing over and over again. Yeah, so when it comes to protein, one key thing that I practice and I advise to all my clients is rotate your protein. Don't just eat chicken breast, couple of meals, chicken breast, fish, plant-based protein, so many other choices. So you don't get bored also with the food that you're eating. And I can understand because...
So Alvin, you're not eating salmon every day, right?
No. If I eat salmon every day, I probably need to have a little...
He's going to grow gills. Alvin's going to grow gills and scales on his face.
Yeah. And I can understand why people are concerned with this because our industry also it's filled with a lot of misinformation. Like when we think of meal plans to lose weight, right, Noel, a lot of unqualified people giving out information and drawing meal plans. And the meal plans usually is something that is very typical. You can pick it up from Google and it's very bodybuilding-ish. Steamed chicken, steamed broccoli, brown rice. It's like that's the
Yeah.
only three food that
Yeah.
people eat. And that's just
And
sad.
here's the thing, those diets work. If you ate steamed chicken, steamed broccoli, it works. But is it the best option for your health? Are you
Mm.
really eating to support your health, or are you just eating for the sake of calories and macronutrients? Two different things. That's why you want to look at variety. I think 20, 30 years ago, when all these bodybuilders were full on into it, it was just about calories and protein and carbs and fat. Now we know better. Now we know that even your vegetables, the more variety, the better it is. Not just when it comes to protein, but just
Mm-hmm.
really rotating those sources. Good point. Great point, Alvin, on protein variety.
Okay, I'm going to look at, let's take this question, Noel.
Right.
So this question asks, how do I know which type of protein is suitable for ourselves? So I think it's very interesting because it kind of comes back to our point on rotating different protein source. So you want to try different protein
Yep.
source that's animal-based, plant-based, whether is it a protein supplement or a protein as in the meat, the whole food. And you want to see what, number one, of course, what is something that you prefer. I use the word never, tell my clients to eat something that they don't like. So if they don't like chicken, I won't say you have to eat chicken because chicken has the highest protein or it's easy to get. No, it's something that you really enjoy because no matter what food is it, whether is it carbs, protein or fat, it wants to be something that it suits your preference because that's going to sustain lifelong. Okay, and when you find a protein that you really enjoy, include more of it in your meals, and then whatever that's the remaining, kind of rotate different source of protein. So that would be my answer.
That's a great question. It sounds like Huivian, it sounds like you're just basically wanting to start and you're wondering what's a good protein to get started with. It also sounds like your question is kind of like that. There are so many varieties of protein out there. The more popular ones tend to be whey protein because whey is easily digested, it's more bioavailable. Your body actually prefers an animal protein compared to a plant-based protein. So it's more readily absorbed. So you can start from there. There's plenty of options out there. There's many brands as well. It's so hard to tell people how to start buying protein because there's so many options. Just be careful when you buy them online because there's all sorts of fakes out there also. Make sure you buy from a reputable store, or if you're working with a trainer or you have someone that you can talk to, ask them what they are already having because there's literally like 20 different brands with 20 different flavors and you don't know where to start. And these protein powders come in big tubs. You buy the whole tub, you don't like it, there goes, right? So if you really want a suggestion, you can also drop Alvin and I a message. He has his favorites, I have my favorites as well. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction. But generally, I would suggest starting with unless you are vegetarian or plant-based eater, any generic whey protein supplement is a good place to start. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to go and buy a overpriced MLM fancy something supplement as well. A generic whey protein is actually pretty affordable. That would be a good way to start. And it has to be something that you enjoy. If you hate the taste, don't buy it. Right? Like I like chocolate whey protein powder, so I'll make sure every protein powder I get is chocolate. I'm not going to buy strawberry because I know I'll hate it. So it's also down to personal preference. Yeah.
And when it comes to protein, what you say is very true. Like it usually comes in big tubs. So if you go like certain brands, for example, Optimum Nutrition, they have like variety pack. So they have like one pack with 10 different flavors, and each of them are like one serving. So it's always good to try the variety pack so that you get a a feel of what's the flavor like, because I have clients, chocolate I feel is the safest for most protein brands. But I have clients that have very interesting preference. I want to try vanilla. No, my favorite ice cream is vanilla, so I want a vanilla flavor. Some protein brands are going to taste funny. Doesn't really match up to your flavor. So try the variety pack just to be safe.
Yeah, generally chocolate vanilla quite safe lah. But careful when you go down the matcha green tea, there are so many other flavors out there.
Peanut
but
butter,
yeah,
chocolate.
just drop us a message. We'll be happy to help you get started. We have some specific brands that we'll be happy to suggest. But good question, and good job on taking that initiative to get more protein. Protein is our favorite macronutrient, my favorite macronutrient.
All right, we have one more question.
Yeah.
Yes, so I invite you to, we have about 10 minutes before Instagram decides to kick us out. So post your questions here, we're going to answer them. I think this question is something that we have kind of go through already. It asks, do you see the question coming up? There you go, it just pops up. How do I know how much protein do I need to gain muscles? So Noel and I, we both have shared the daily requirements. When it comes to requirements and all of this, as a fitness professional, Noel and I, we both study. We don't just pick up a number and say, oh, you are this, you need this amount. It always goes back to credible source, like one source that is really, really useful to know any requirements are ACSM, American Council of Sport Medicine. So they give you research figures of how much we should consume. So if you're looking to gain muscles, the range would be 1.2 to 1.7. Okay, how should we know whether should I go for 1.2 or 1.7? So you start with the lowest, 1.2, and you see, does that fit into your current eating habits? Is that too much, too little? Were you able to consume that much? If you find that you can, and then you slowly bump up to the higher end of protein. Okay, once again, coming back to your overall meals. But the range is about there, 1.2 to 1.7. If you're looking to gain muscles, build strength, stick to that range.
Yeah, I'll just add on to say that if your goal is to gain muscle, just because you consume enough protein doesn't mean you're going to build muscle, because your caloric intake needs to match also. I know some people who eat so healthy, they're so afraid of carbs, they're so afraid of fat, they only focus on the protein, but they end up eating on a caloric deficit, even though they're meeting their protein needs. Then you're still in a deficit. If you're in a deficit, you're not going to build muscle, because building muscle means you need to be on a caloric surplus. So don't just look at your sufficient protein intake. Make sure you're getting enough carbohydrates. Make sure you're eating sufficient dietary fat. So your diet is balanced. You're consuming enough calories together with enough protein. So enough protein alone is not going to help you gain muscle, but enough protein with enough calories from your carbs and from your fat. Now, how much carbs, how much fat, doesn't matter so much. They've actually done studies to show that as long as protein intake is consistent, it actually doesn't matter how much carbs and how much fat if your caloric intake hits what it is. So some people say, oh, I go keto, but I consume enough protein, I'm going to see results. Actually, it doesn't matter. You can go high carb and low fat, or high fat and low carb, but protein intake is enough, you will still see results. So then again, coming down to the fact that protein is really a super important macronutrient, whether building muscle is your goal or losing fat is your goal. So protein is so important, which is why we have two whole episodes to talk about it. Great question.
And what Noel mentioned just now in terms of carbs, that's what we call carb cycling. So there are certain days you have high carbs, certain days you have low carbs, and people cycle their carb based on their activity level. For example, if you have a workout on that day, you're moving more, you tend to go on high carbs and lower fat, vice versa. But then protein maintained consistently to make sure that you have enough protein inside your body to preserve muscles, to build muscles, to help you with your recovery and keeps you full. Now, carbs and fat, we invite you to go back to our previous 2-3 episodes where we have a full episode on carbohydrate, a full episode on dietary fat. We should talk about eating fat doesn't quite really makes you fat. So check out our previous episode. It's on our Facebook, it's on our website. You have all the show notes there to talk about carbs and fat. I have a question here for Hui Wen as well. I love this. Since we are talking on supplements, she asked, how do I know if I need to take BCAA, creatine, or leucine? Leucine is one type of amino acid. You want to take this first, Noel?
Okay, hang on. I'm just going to look at the question again. How do I know if I need to take in BCAA, creatine, leucine? Okay, BCAA's amino acids, leucine is also amino acid. I won't touch so much on that. I would say that if you're consuming enough protein, you don't need to worry too much about this. But creatine is something separate. Creatine is not protein. Creatine is a separate supplement. It's actually a supplement. Well, creatine actually exists in some of the foods that you eat, but you can never get it in those quantities. And creatine has not only been proven, creatine is one of the most heavily researched and studied supplement. People are afraid of supplements, right? Creatine is super safe. In fact, some of the newer research are showing that creatine actually is good for your brain health. So I know so many people who are taking it who are not into bodybuilding and building muscle, but they take it because of brain health. So overall good for health. Anyone can benefit from creatine, I would say that. Just whether if fitness and training or whether building muscle is your goal, everyone can benefit from that. And the dosage, it's typically about 5 grams of creatine per day. And you can also follow what is on the label of the container that you're buying. But typically, Hui Wen, I'm not sure what your goals are, so it's a little tricky to answer your question. But can I also say that very often, based on my experience, people tend to overthink and overdo the supplements. The basics are consume enough protein, balanced diet, enough carbohydrates, enough fat, and then is what you're eating supporting your fitness goals. Sometimes we ignore the basics and we focus on the little things. We focus on the creatine, we focus on the pre-workout, we focus on the BCAAs, and those are not bad things, but shift your focus on the basics. Like 30 years ago, people were not supplementing with BCAAs and all these isolated proteins and amino acids, but people still did great, right? So ask yourself, what are your goals and are we overthinking it? Most people do. Before you even look at all these extra supplements, because supplements are, remember what Alvin said just now, supplements are meant to supplement what you're already having. So let's cover our bases first. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we drinking enough water? Are we overstressed? Are we getting enough protein, carbs, and fat? Let that be your basic requirements. Are you eating enough vegetables? Those are the basics that you want to look at before we look at all the other things. So when you get your basics right, then it's totally worthwhile looking at all those other supplements that are out there, because then they can improve what you're doing. But if you look at all those other things, but we neglect the basics, you're not going to make the most out of your food intake and your supplement intake. Great question, by the way.
Love it.
Anything
So Noel have just shared like getting on to the basics. Perhaps I'll share a little bit, assuming if you are watching this and you already got the basics already, all right, and you have your everything else in place, there are certain supplements that can perhaps enhance you. Creatine, Noel, 100% agree. No matter what your fitness goal, I strongly encourage 5 grams a day, or if you're into loading, then you need to follow certain protocol. Like BCAA, it's a little bit tricky because if your diet it's complete, you don't need the additional amino acid coming from BCAA. That's why there's a lot of articles and videos and research saying that BCAA is a waste of money. However, if you look at like high performance athletes, if you're training twice a day, if you're doing long endurance races and you're marathon runners and things like that, you need that additional amino acid, additional support coming in for like BCAA or even leucine to help you. And one way to know is to look at your training program, assuming you have a full marathon coming up in months' time. And as you training increase in volume, meaning that you are running more, doing more, preparing for the event, and you find that you're fatigued, you're getting a bit more sore, harder to recover, and you assess all other areas of your life, including your sleep, your water, your stress level, like all those looks fine, but I'm still getting this, then perhaps the solution is increase your supplement, because that's what happens to me. We oftentimes too much forget about the basics like Noel shared and straight away jump into the supplement. It has its time in place, so always revisit back your basic, and if it's on place and your volume is constantly increasing, perhaps this supplement can then benefit you.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I have a client who doesn't sleep enough. The client's solution is to drink more coffee and drink all these energy drinks. Gives you a temporary solution, but hello, the obvious fix is to try and get more sleep, try and get more rest. That will be all the energy that you need, right? It's not that what's the best energy drink that I can have. That's not the solution. So same thing with your diet, like not wrong. Every supplement has its time and place and its purpose and its goal. But very often, based on the people that we work with, there's so much that we can do with the basics that we have. Great question. Thank you for answering that. We're going to need to start to wrap up. Unless you have any more questions, we might be able to take one more if you pop a question in. Otherwise, I think we went through our whole list today. Thank you, all of you all, for sending in questions, like even from before, and to Elvin's IG story as well. Keep them coming. Is there anything we're going to wrap up with, Elvin, as we close today's show?
Well, thank you all so much for your question. If you still have questions or if you need more explanation from us, reach out to us, send us a DM, and we will give you more information. We'll share more articles with you, and we are always here to help you. If you have more questions that is non-related to protein, I know our topic today is protein, do send us over. We'll constantly have a little Q&A segment at every episode on our show. I see there are new faces here. We are here on every Monday, 9 p.m. Malaysian time, and we have certain topics and we do Q&A. So if you have any questions or you need any assistance in your fitness journey, you're not sure where to start, you're not sure which gym to join, you're not sure after an injury how to get back on track, please reach out to Noel, reach out to myself. Noel is in TTDI, I am in Kajang. We have been here for years and our show has been growing and growing. We are here on a mission to help you reach your fitness goal. So we are here for you. Reach out to us if there's anything. And we're going to post this episode on our Facebook and also on our website, which is twoguysandtheirgym.com. The show notes, the resources will be there. And I don't see there's any questions coming on the well. We're going to wrap it up, I guess.
Yeah, so everybody remember now, every time you sit down to eat, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, post-workout, just be conscious about where's my protein? Is this enough? What did Alvin and Noel say? Am I getting enough? And that's the first step. That's it. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't need a calculator to calculate yet, unless that's your thing. But just be more conscious about consuming enough protein to support your fitness goals. And that's a great first step to be at from your next meal onwards.
Absolutely. With that being said, with love in our heart, we thank you for your Monday night with us on Instagram. We invite you to follow us, Noel and myself, on Instagram. If you haven't, reach out to us if there's any questions. And we hope to see you next week with more questions.